the government of Alberta could hold an independence referendum on its own without any of this Citizen Initiative Act anytime it wanted. So it's great to have this Citizen Initiative Act there, but on the other hand, it's also a distraction. It makes it look as though this is a necessary process to getting to a referendum, and that is not so. The government could do this on its own anytime. It just seems to be that it does not want ownership of that process. It wants the citizens to do it so it doesn't have to own it. So if and when the government of Alberta decides to hold an independence referendum, there is a section in the Referendum Act, which is also going to be a barrier. It's not the same one. It doesn't have the same wording, but I'll read that one to you. It's not as broad, but it is also a problem. Section 8.11, subsection 3. Nothing in a referendum held under this act is to be construed as abrogating or derogating from the existing Aboriginal and treaty rights of the Aboriginal peoples of Canada that are recognized and affirmed by Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982. Now, what does that mean? That sounds like it means if the government of Alberta holds a referendum on anything, including independence, no result of that referendum can change the status of Aboriginal rights in Alberta. The Alberta government has had the Alberta legislature include that section in the act. If that section was not in there, then as far as I'm concerned, an independent Alberta could do whatever it wanted. Like in an independent Alberta, I'm hoping that there will be no crown, and therefore not necessarily any deals that the crown made. You could start with a blank slate if that's what that's what the country wanted. This proposition that you can be independent, but you can't break away from these obligations created by the British Crown. Nonsense, absolute nonsense.
So I've bounced these ideas around with a couple different people. The way that I've heard it described is that if going down this path and you have to address these treaties, either they're going to be upheld by the federal government, they're going to renegotiated by the Alberta government as independence is moved forward, or if they just wanted to keep doing their thing, they would just put a fence around the reservations, and that would be a pseudo-state inside of Alberta, which is not ideal, but that seems like how it is if nothing moves forward, if no conversations move forward on the treaty side of things.
Well, so the Supreme Court of Canada in this 1988 reference case that everybody is referring to, and appropriately, says that in these negotiations that would follow a successful referendum, the interests of various groups, including Aboriginal groups, should, in these negotiations, this is the language that they use, should be taken into account. Now, that's very important language. To be taken into account does not mean that their continuation is guaranteed. To be taken into account means you turn your mind to them. You put them on the table, and the two parties decide what's going to happen. So they are very much in flux like everything else. Everything else is in flux. The Supreme Court says a successful independence referendum is a repudiation of the existing constitutional order. That's what we're after. We're after a repudiation of the existing constitutional order. Aboriginal rights are part of the existing constitutional order. And for my money, and I'm not the only one, an independent Alberta should start with a blank slate. And a blank slate means no charter, no Aboriginal rights, no Canadian Constitution. You start from afresh and decide how the country's going to work. And so I do not accept these arguments that, we can be independent, but these things are required to continue. They are not required to continue. That's a choice. I mean, James, when you say that the federal government might uphold the treaties, well, what does that have to do with it? The federal government can uphold them. The federal government, the Canadian government, is still subject to those obligations because that situation has not changed for them. What's happening in Alberta is a complete change. Alberta is no longer part of Confederation, and the Canadian Constitution will not apply except for this section of this Alberta statute. The Alberta statute is tying the hands of the Alberta government in negotiating, or will do if we get to that stage, will tie the hands of the Alberta government according to its own laws. I have to emphasize this. This is a self-inflicted restriction.